We've been waiting on this day for years. Me and Papa T have really resisted the urge to put sandpaper on this car until we were ready to do it. If I'm being honest with you, I'm not sure that we're 100% ready right now. I don't know that we're not jumping the gun and maybe moving a little too fast with this. But here's the plan. Here's what we want to do. We want to get started on this car, put some sandpaper on it, see how these panels come out. See if we need to do any major body work as far as lining fenders up, possibly cutting gaps and welding things back. You got to get started somewhere, and this is honestly the cheapest and fastest way to get started is start sanding on the car and spot priming it and see what we got, right? This car is going to need a lot of body work in the rear of it. Now in the front, not so much. All these panels up front, as you can see, are new. But they will require some block sanding, some high build primer, and a little bit of work for sure. But this is a huge deal right now to be doing this, because what this does is forces you to now get started on the car and not give up. You got to roll with it. Well, I knew if he ever got the sander in his hand, it'd be over with. Now I know you've been wanting to sand that for 20 years.
More than that. Way more than that. Put a piece of duct tape on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And then put that stuff on top of it, and it held that hole.
So
somehow.
you did that.
Yeah.
So that's just fiberglass, I guess?
Just a Bondo or something.
That's crazy.
I'd never believe it. You can tell if you look underneath the bottom of it.
Yeah. This is about the first time you've really put sandpaper on it for the most part. Maybe way back, but.
Yeah.
Well, Papa T had to go. John's over. This is where the bottom quarter was put in the car. And as you can see, this is where they seamed it all together at. And what we're gonna do from here is probably grind it on down to about right here and probably up here like this. And these two pieces aren't exactly flush, as you could imagine. This bottom panel is just out a little bit. So I'm gonna tap on it a little bit more, see if I can't get it better. But from there, we're just gonna put a little bit of filler over it all, smooth it all out, and it should be good to go. This side's not bad at all. Now this side of the car, although you might not be able to see it until I get down like this, is jacked up. Now, this thing is beat to hell. The problem with this side over here is high spots. We can fix pretty much any low spot, but if you've got high spots, it's gonna be really hard. So we're probably gonna come in and start tapping all of this down at some point and get this, honestly, just to be one big low spot. Same thing down here, and then we'll come in with a nice coat of filler, block it all out, and be good to go. Now, that's really the only bad spot on the car. The roof of the car is pretty straight for the most part. Back here is pretty straight, and obviously our new doors and everything else. We're gonna work on that a little bit longer. We don't have much filler. I may try to get some filler on that patch panel, but the big thing that I wanna do tonight is take the wheels off and roll the fenders of the car and get that done, because last time I drove this thing, the wheels rubbed on the inside of the fenders. Don't anticipate this car being painted this year, but I could see it getting in primer. We'll probably get it in primer, which obviously we're gonna spot prime the car, obviously. But I mean, in primer, possibly this year, yeah. All right, y'all, so we are over on the other side of the car, and I think I showed it to you earlier. This thing was really beat up pretty bad, but we've been working on it, and believe it or not, it's coming out really good. Now, what we're not trying to do is make this panel completely straight. We anticipate having filler, and that's perfectly fine. But we want to be careful and not just beat the ever-loving shit out of these high spots. As you can see here, we've sanded on this, we've beat on it, we've put some, what is that, interior dye, which is what we use, is kind of like a guide coat, and we sanded it off. And these are your high spots. So what John's doing right now is going in and lightly tapping on these, trying to massage them down as best as possible. Just like that. All of this metal, whenever you have a high spot and you hit it, it's got to go somewhere. So it's either going to go that way, that way, that way, or that way. And it's wanting to go back this way, which we don't want it to, because that starts to bulge out this line right here. So he's going to continue to work on it. I just wanted to show you guys what it is that we're looking at here. And like I said, we will have filler on this panel, but it's really not quite as bad as we thought, though.
No.
Andrew's over here working hard as usual.
Yeah, man, I'm busting my ass.
Yeah.
Probably about 10 minutes more closer than they were when we started.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's looking real good. You can see something happened with this rear panel. It just kind of got crumpled up. We said earlier we didn't want to do a lot of hammer and dollying, but guys, I'm gonna be honest with you. Me and John put the old hammer and dolly to use, and it works. Now, obviously, we can get to the back side of this panel. So we've worked a lot of this out here. So what we're gonna do right now is just kind of go through, pick us a bad spot. Well, actually, you just want to kind of work down one more time with it, just from scratch.
Yeah. What we want to do is start from up here and just work together down. Not a lot of hammer pressure. We were talking about it. We didn't want to put a lot of filler right here next to this right here, because if you have any kind of flex, or if this part right here gets bolted on too hard, it might crack your filler. So
Yeah, just like what happened right there. So you don't want to have a big gap. We can have a thin skim coat, but we don't want a lot. So we're going to work it a little bit more, and that's probably as far as we'll go with the hammer and dolly is right here. The rest of this will just be worked out. So we're just going to...
well, you can also already tell, since we did this earlier, that how much this body line has changed. I mean, this edge has changed. That noise right there.
Yep. Actually feels pretty good. Anyway, this has helped us out, so now we should just be able to put a nice skim coat. We'll do some more tapping on it, but absolutely completely different. I mean, Andrew, feel that.
It looks way better.
Yeah, so Andrew saw it earlier.
Yeah.
Is that not so much better?
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, you know, we're not trying to get every little bit of that out, but we're just coming in with essentially like a guide coat. What you can do is you put it over your panel like that, right? And then you're going to come in with a block and some sandpaper or a grinder, but I prefer something like this. And we're going to sand this off. Anything that gets sanded off will be shiny metal. That's going to be your high spots. So then you're going to work those down. If you can get it better than what it was, then you can put a nice skim coat on it, and that's perfectly acceptable.
I mean, it looks.
It actually looks a lot better
World
than what
better
it
than
did.
it did.
Yeah. And so far, so good. I know it looks like on camera because I can see it. I see all that, but y'all trust me, it's actually way better than what it was. So we're going to continue to work on it. All right, day 2 of the Gray Ghost. We're going to start rolling the fenders. Actually, I'm going to do this side over here first, because this is the one that we had some issues with. When I drove the car around the neighborhood, which that's as far as I've been with it, really, I heard something kind of scrub, and I want to say I saw a mark on the tire right up here where it caught. And as you can see, I mean, it's pretty close. So we're just going to go ahead and roll the fenders on this car. That way we won't have any rubbing, scrubbing issues. Plus, you always want to do your rolling before you do your body work. That's what we're going to do now. If they're angled down, then you're going to have to work twice as hard to get this thing to roll up. So just come in and lightly start tapping the very inside of this lip up. You just want to get it to roll up, and that'll just make it easier for you to roll. So obviously, light pressure to start with. You just want to tighten as you go. And just so everybody knows, you don't really have to go any further than right here. None of this is ever going to touch. So about right here is all you really need to go. Now what I like to do after I get this rolled is start to blend it in, start to roll the edges, and oftentimes I really just do that with a hammer. I really think at this point I can just hammer it home. A lot of this is just feel. It's not something I can explain to you and tell you how to do. You just kind of got to know where to hit the metal. And Black Widow. All right, we got the fenders rolled, and I'm happy with it. The main purpose of this was just to keep the tires from rubbing. At some point, if we put 275s on this car, we're gonna have to really fold these things up. We'll put it on the lift, probably make some cuts in it and really fold everything back. But for right now, this absolutely won't rub anymore. Look at that, nice and rolled. So I'm happy with the progress that we've made. We're just at a weird point really with this car. You know, it's just kind of, it's getting to the point now where it's go time. And we're just gonna have to bite the bullet, start sanding on the car, you know, prime it and start blocking everything out. And as we run into problems, fix them. You know, panel gaps or something needs to be cut out and welded, maybe we didn't see, we'll just have to address it like that. It'll be a little unorthodox, I guess, in a sense, as to the way most people would do it, but for us, that's just the best way. Proceed forward, whatever pops up, fix it. If you got to go back and redo something that you already did, so be it. It is what it is. It's kind of uncharted territory for me with this thing, but there again, the car runs, it drives, it has brakes. We just need to do some body work on it. Now it'll stay in primer for a while. This car's not going to be painted immediately. But I told you guys that I was going to try to get Papa T to sit down and talk with us about the history of this car, but I wasn't able to do it. He had to go. But John's got a little bit of history too. He remembers this car. I drove it for a little while whenever we first met, and it was just a fun car. It looked, matter of fact, it never looked any better than this. I mean, I've got pictures that I'll show you guys. Back in the 80s, this car looked like ass. It was rusted up, it was dented up. I mean, it never looked any better than it does right now since we've owned this car, ever. But it was always a fun car. It ran really good, so it is what it is, y'all. It'll be back on the road soon. We do still have somewhat of a carburetor issue. I thought I had figured it out, but it's just going to be a carburetor issue. I don't think it's anything that we can tune out of it. But anyway, I'll catch back up with you guys in a couple more videos. We'll get back started on this car. But until then, as always, thanks for watching.